Good morning. Today, let's continue our exploration of primary triads, or our tonic, subdominant, and dominant triads. And let's start off by examining the difference between 5/3 and 6/3 chords, or as the theorists used to talk about, the chords of the fifth and the chords of the sixth. And the difference between the chords really comes down to the harmonic series. So let's just review ourselves how the harmonic series works. Let's go to the whiteboard here. So we know that above any given note, sounding in mathematical proportions with it, are other pitches. So the frequency 110 resonates with frequencies 220, 330, 440, 550, 660, so on and so forth. And so if you remember, our harmonic overtones, say I've got a C above a low C in the bass. We have another C up an octave. We have a G up the fifth. We come back to the C of the octave, double octave. And then we have an E and a G, and then an out of tune note that doesn't really fit in our equal temperament system that we tend to use. And then we come back to our C, C, D, E. At that point, things start moving stepwise instead of with our harmonic partials, our different intervals. And so really what we pay attention to, for the most part, because frequencies get higher and higher and a little bit harder to hear. Also, in most instruments, as you go up, the higher partials are not as strong as the lower partials. There's a curve, if you will. If this is the C is the strongest, things tend to taper off, and so by the time you get to these higher overtones, you don't hear them as much. So they're not as prevalent in our discussion of things. So for our discussion of things, we're just going to pull it back to here before that kind of magic break at the seventh partial, the out of tune thing, that kind of separates our skips, if you will, from our steps. And so what you see here is that above my C, I've got an octave, and I've got a fifth, and I've got another octave, and I've got a third. So what I've got is a C with octaves and fifths and thirds, or I could just, for short, C5/3. And so as a result of the overtone series, our 5/3 chord here, let's move this up here. What this teaches us is that the 5/3 is stable. 5/3 is stable, which means all of the upper voices are in concordance or in harmony with the bass voice, and so it creates a sense of stability. And so we like to have stable chords on stable places of our harmonic functions. That's why we started off last week. We saw our tonic, plagal, authentic, back to tonic, and we like to have 5/3s on all of these. They're nice stable points as we move through the functional tetractys scale in the bass. Today we're adding in 6/3 chords. 6/3 chords. So let's do a little bit of work with 6/3 chords. First of all, let's prove that the do, fa, sol, do are stable actually before we go on to 6/3 chords. So in fact, we'll just break this into several short videos so you can digest it bit by bit. So in video 1, we're just talking about our 5/3 chords for now, and we'll break it up into other videos for the 6/3 chords. So let's just prove that do, fa, sol, do, they're all nice and stable chords. So say we're in the key of C major. I'd have a C, F, G, and C. So I've already seen that my do 5/3 is stable because, above that we have our G, our C, E. We'll just do the first, we'll cut out the double octave there and just grab the basics. I've got my 5, I've got my octave, I've got my third. Nice, stable notes, and we would hear that in a do 5/3 chord. Fa would be F. So if we look at what's up, a fifth from the F is a C. There's my octave, up the third, it would give me an A. And these are the notes, fa, do, fa, la. Yeah, that's our fa, la, do. That's what we'd expect in a subdominant chord. This, of course, was our do, sol, and mi. So I've got my do, mi, and sol together here. And then over my sol here, my G. I've got its fifth the octave, and the third, and sure enough we have our sol, ti, and re. This is one reason we consider these to be the primary triads, is if we take the 5/3 chord on each of these do, fa, sol tetractous areas, we actually have the entire scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, with do being in 2 places, and sol's in a couple of places. And so we actually have that scale showing up. It's interesting, by the way, just talk about 5/3s. What changes from major to minor? Well, we've talked about having not the major one, which is do, mi, sol, but the minor one. So in minor, let's grab blue for minor. In minor, I would have E flat, me, and I would have A flat in my subdominant chord, lay. Notice that this actually creates a little bit of a dissonant clash here between the overtone, which says it should be an E, and the chord I'm actually using in minor, which is the E flat. The overtone above F says it should be an A. Instead I'm getting a half step away, A flat. That creates a little bit of a dissonance. It's a minor dissonance. That fifth is still locking us in. The octave still locking us in. But I tend to think that this is probably why we think of minor as being darker, sadder, less stable than major, is because we are getting a clash with the overtones. I need to do some cognitive work at some point and figure out if that's actually a true theory, but it's what I'm going with for now. And so these are our 5/3 chords on our primary triads. In the next video that goes along with this series, we're going to take a look at 6/3 chords and see how they are unstable chords that imply motion.